7th grade group. If you look at this cool design that I created, it actually says the word artist, but it is meant to be a fun name design where I created all of these lines and then abstracted the word by inverting it and creating its opposite shape, and then just adding more and more detail to focus on just lines. Now, I want to point out to you that because I like to draw things that are fantasy-based, whimsical, surrealist, not realistic necessarily, cartoony, and I like to draw with pen, this is a great type of work to show that that would work really good for this type of activity. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close my screen in on the artwork itself, which takes a little bit of playing around with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a new paper and show you from the beginning how you would start something like this. Okay, and I actually was using a longer piece of paper. For this, I am just going to use what I have. And right now I have a piece of paper that is standard copier size, 8.5 by 11 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and take this paper and fold it in half. Then what I want to do is on the side that is the fold, I want to have that be the bottom of the lettering. So I'm going to make a word that goes across. And you could always do your name. So I'll do my last name. So my last name is Wilson. And what I'll do is I have to draw the way I'm looking at it, but then I'll show you letter by letter form what I'm doing. So if you think about it, you're making an artwork, right? So you don't have to make anything in a certain way when it comes to making letters. Normally, if you were handwriting for a class and you were younger and you were learning how you were supposed to form a letter such as W, you would have to create it a certain way, right? But the awesome part about making an artwork is that you can totally create a style. And for right now, I'm just going to make this have a diamond shape above the eye. So if you're looking at it from this angle, you should see that, and you might be seeing an inverted version because when you do any kind of video, it's like a photograph, you see an inverted version. So you might be seeing this backwards, but this is supposed to be my name. So I'm starting with W-I-N. I'm going to go ahead and continue to have fun and make an interesting shape out of curvy and straight lines. That's my L. It's kind of like a boot. And actually, I love making S's in this really kind of pointy way. The tricky part is it's like a lightning bolt. If you see that, that's supposed to be an S. The tricky part is sometimes if you have a word you want to create on a piece of paper like this and you want to fill a space, oh, what do I do if I have a long word or I get to the end and I'm just not sure how to fill it, right? It's tricky, but you can figure it out. You just have to be creative. So what I did there is I just made a little shape for my O. So my last name Wilson is almost complete. W-I-L-S-O-N. I started creating these letter forms. Oh man, I was probably in middle school. I didn't go to middle school, though. We just had junior high, but I was in junior high. I was really into doing these kinds of letter forms. So that is the first step of how to create this letter form. Then, if you notice, the whole bottom half is empty. So on the back with my pen, I can kind of see the lines, right? So here's step 2 of this project. All right. If it looks like this right now, pay attention. I'm going to lay it down in front, Now, I'm going to take it and I'm just going to take that folded area and fold it back so that I can flip it down and then flip it over. Now, if you look really closely, and this may be hard because you're looking at a screen, but I can see through the paper and I can see the lines. I think you can see the lines there. So what I'm going to do now is take my pen. I like using pen. Nothing that would bleed, just something like a simple, cheap pen. I'm going to take my I'm tracing carefully on the lines that I see. And I'm pressing hard so that you can see these lines here. This is the back. It's actually only going to be created so that you can see it from the other side. So there is a little bit of tracing involved. Now you could totally do a freehand version of this project, but I want to create a design that has a symmetrical approach. I plan on sharing this with 6th graders because I think that this is appropriate for 6th grade. We want to try something different, and I really want to teach my 6th, 7th, and 8th graders how to really focus on learning how you can really take your time in a drawing. And I think a lot of the older kids that like to draw that signed up for my elective do understand that. But when you're in a block scheduling of 82 minutes, it would be kind of nice to have a project set up that is designed that kids can just really explore taking their time. I've shown a lot of my own art with my students and my particular drawings where I work for hours or up to a month on a piece. I just really learned that it's about slowing down, which is actually quite opposite of my experimental watercolors because they're very fast because you have to wait for the watercolor to dry once you just lay in the color. So back to the artwork. This is obviously an upside down version of my name. And for you and me looking at the screen here, it now looks like the word Wilson. The reason it looks like the word Wilson is because it's the inverted version. If I flip it over now, this is the actual front, the first one I did. And you might be able to see part of those lines just sort of popping through. That's because they copied onto there when I pushed hard with this pen. You could do this with pencil, but sometimes it smears and sometimes kids push so hard that you actually accidentally break your pencil. So, I also would avoid mechanical pencils because if you're like me, you pop them and bust them when you're trying to push too hard. So I would go with a pen if you have that available. So next step, this is step 3 of this project. I have it flipped over and I'm actually going to take a little bit of extra paper and stick it under the work. Now, this side was what I traced. I want to copy what showed up here over there. Now, the way I could see it better, like let's just say you're looking, you still can't see the lines. Well, flip it this way and flip it back so when you hold it down, you can see through. And again, I'm just taking my time right now and tracing. I tried this one year with my 5th grade at a school that I don't teach it anymore. And they took their time on this thing and they took it with really nice big paper and then they used watercolor and filled it in. And then they traced the whole thing with Sharpie. But man, the project itself took 5 to 6 weeks. And I think that's what could be nice about doing this with an older grade. I might try this with my 7th graders. It just depends on how things are going. I have them for a double block. So I'm beginning to think that since I have them for a 40-minute block, then a break, then another 40-minute block, maybe this actually is a good way to do it. There's a lot of directions. Okay, now I did that really fast, but again, I'm aware you may not be that fast at it, and we're just learning as we go. Okay, so if you look at this neat design I have now, this is the end product. You created this very interesting, abstract, not realistic looking, maybe you see something real, but most likely not unless you're using your imagination. This abstract drawing that could also turn this way, and then you could really have fun and turn it into something else. Now, I'm going to stop the video and say that realistically, if you look at how this is the next step on my own that you could be in, which I always love to call the creativity zone. I also have one for my younger students, but I'll leave that out since I'm dealing with middle schoolers right now. If you look at this drawing, you'll see that for this fun drawing, I took my time and I got creative. I put this face in there and I was like, I think I'm gonna make like a house. And then I got really creative and put another face and got some tentacles going on, but it doesn't have to even look like that. In the end, I could surprise people and I could hang it up. And if you see that, this inverted version may show you the backwards version. If you can see what that says, you will know what I am. Artist. And if you are interested in seeing any more of these videos, I am going to keep this channel available for the purposes of teaching my students, particularly remotely. And I am going to just continue calling my channel the Creativity Zone. So that is how I started my project that I am going to have my middle schoolers complete soon in 6th and 7th grade to try out. And I call that a symmetrical folded name abstraction, the art element of line. Okay. Thank you for tuning in if you are tuning in today. And if you want to see more shares, feel free to look at my channel, subscribe. I will tell you that the ones that were designed for the previous school year, 2019 and 2020, were designed for elementary students, and some were just to say hello to my students working at home. Okay, have a good day.